Hey everyone, today I'm gonna reveal hidden details from Squid Game Season 2 that I can bet you haven't noticed before. This is part 2 of my Squid Game Season 2 breakdown, but don't worry if you haven't watched part 1 yet, you can check out that video after you're done with this one. So without any further ado, let's begin. For the six-legged game, Gi-hun and his team had to wait a long, nerve-wracking 4 hours before their turn. Let me explain how. With 365 players split into groups of 5, that's 73 teams in total. Each team had 5 minutes to complete the challenges. Since 2 teams played simultaneously, that means the total wait time for Gi-hun and his team was 180 minutes, or 3 hours. But wait, there's more. The guards needed extra time between rounds to clean up and collect the bodies, so let's add another hour for that. That would mean, by the time Gi-hun and his team got to play the six-legged game, they had been waiting for at least 4 hours. Now imagine the mental toll it must have had on Gi-hun's team, since they were watching people fail and die over and over, knowing their turn was coming. Sure, going last gave them extra time to strategize, but God, waiting for the bodies to be cleaned up before you can go is torture. This would also explain why Gi-hun was so good at playing gongi. He probably remastered pebble throwing in those 4 hours, while everyone else was losing their minds. At the point when the enrollment specialist played Russian roulette with the predatory lender, notice that the scout really stacked a fake slug. You can guess by the opening at the foundation of the packaging. This is the closely guarded secret. That opening is where the groundwork sits. The groundwork is a little hazardous that, when struck by the shooting pin, touches off and moves the shot out of the barrel. Assuming that the groundwork has previously been hit or is missing by and large, the weapon won't shoot. In this way, in the principal round, there was no opportunity of the firearm terminating. In the subsequent game, the selection representative added 3 additional fakers, however this time 1 genuine shot. You can tell on the grounds that only 1 projectile looks level, it been hit to mean the preliminary hasn't as of now. That implies when the selection representative said they had a 5 in 6 possibility passing on, truly, there was just a 1 in 6 possibility kicking the bucket. So for what reason did the spotter lie about this? My hypothesis is, the enrollment specialist needed to watch them endure. He didn't believe the game should end in 1 or 2 rounds. Watching their trepidation and frenzy was essential for his arrangement. Adding more slugs made the 2 players think passing was close to 100%, despite the fact that the chances were still in support of themselves. Because of Simon for sending me this detail. The enrollment specialist passed on the lounge chair with his eyes actually open. In any case, in the event that you give close consideration, a couple of seconds after the fact, when Gi-hun is conversing with Choi Charm-suk, notice the entertainer playing the scout flickers. That is Gong-yu. And it seems like he got a piece burnt out on putting on a show of being dead and chosen to sneak in a squint when the camera wasn't straightforwardly on him. In any case, we love him so much, we notice him in any event, when he's simply lying dead behind the scenes. In the red light, green light game, Gi-hun's consistent direction and guidelines kept everybody quiet, and for very nearly 2 minutes, nobody was wiped out. This was disappointing for the frontman, as the game normally sees an enormous disposal binge inside the main moment. Yet, when player 196 at long last gets killed, the frontman inhales a murmur of help and nonchalantly takes a taste of his beverage. Presently, here's where things get intriguing. On the off chance that you take a gander at the screen he's watching, you'll see 3 dead bodies on the ground, and that is a mix-up. Since by then in the game, just player 196 ought to have been disposed of no other person. In episode 5, the frontman offers his milk to the pregnant young lady, saying, "I can't drink plain milk." Presently, back in season 1, episode 3, Illinois Nam said that his child can't process plain milk by the same token. This might actually intend that In-ho, otherwise known as the frontman, is Il Nam's child. As we learned in season 2, In-ho and Jun-ho are stepbrothers, and they have a similar dad. Tell me your considerations on this hypothesis in the remarks. While watching season 2, you might have wondered, did any of the previous winners ever try to stop the games like Gi-hun? And I think the answer is, no. Nobody ever attempted to take on the VIPs or the system to stop the games. Only Gi-hun did. Let me explain. We know the games have been running since 1988. So by 2023, that's 15 editions and 15 different winners. But unlike Gi-hun, those winners were cold-blooded killers, willing to do anything to survive. And we already know one of those previous winners is the Frontman, so who knows how many more of the winners joined and are now part of the game. Think about it, Gi-hun's journey was defined by sheer luck and others' sacrifices. In red light, green light, Ali saved him at the last second. During Dalona, his sweat accidentally gave him the idea to lick the honeycomb.
In Tug of War, the old man, aka Il Nam, devised the winning strategy.
For marbles, Gi-hun was paired with the game's creator. In Glass Bridge, he almost went first but ended up last, which saved him. Even at the end, Sang-woo killed Sae Byok and then sacrificed himself during the final Squid game. Gi-hun didn't win because he was ruthless, but because he is compassionate. He won because of luck, timing, and others' sacrifices. Even during Season 2, he kept getting lucky with the recruiter. And that's what makes Gi-hun unique. He's an anomaly, someone who wasn't supposed to win but did, and someone who still has empathy. The previous winners? They were killers, hardened by the games, with no reason to challenge the system. That's why we've never heard from them and why Gi-hun is the only one bold enough to fight back. A lot of you commented on my Part 1 breakdown, saying I got a detail wrong. So, I went back, rewatched, and now I'm here to clarify. The detail was this. As I mentioned in Part 1, the son abandons his mother during the Mingle game. But many of you believe he didn't actually abandon her, he was forcefully grabbed by the two other guys. Well, I hear you, lads. But I still stand by my take. Yes, at first, the two guys do grab him and drag him away from his mother. And yes, he does try to resist them, but only up to a point. Because if you look closely, and I'm going to slow it down for you here, there's a moment where they stop grabbing him. At that point, he could have simply run back to his mother. But instead, he gives up resisting, turns his back on her, and willingly walks into the room to safety. For me, that's a clear case of abandonment. So I hope you see the point I am trying to make here. The recruiter is fearless during Russian roulette with Gi-hun, pointing the gun at himself multiple times without hesitation. But back in Season 1 when Gi-hun pulled out a lighter shaped like a gun, the recruiter flinched in fear. At first, this might seem inconsistent, but I think there's a valid reason behind this too. The recruiter was probably reacting how any normal person would in that scenario. He interacts with hundreds of people every year, all at their lowest points. He knows exactly how to manipulate and appear relatable to his targets. In this case, I wouldn't be surprised if he knew it was just a toy and played along to come across as more human to Gi-hun. But who would expect an average guy down on his luck to carry an actual gun? And acquiring a real firearm in South Korea is incredibly difficult for the average person. So, his reaction might have been part genuine surprise and part calculated performance. Notice how Gi-hun never uses an umbrella in the show. In Season 1, he was always walking in the rain without one. Even when he went to his ex-wife's apartment, he forgot to take the umbrella back. Now, 3 years later in Season 2, he's still out in the rain, without an umbrella. He seems to have this weird habit of just going out in the rain throughout the series. It's almost like the Dalona game with the umbrella-shaped honeycomb left him with a lasting impression. Maybe carving out that shape made him see umbrellas in a whole new way. It's also a throwback to Season 1 where he said that he always used to forget his umbrella as a kid. It's such a small character trait, and I love how the director Dong Hyuk-hwang kept it consistent across both seasons. Gi-hun and his forgotten umbrellas, it's just so him. Back in Season 1, during the Dalona game, the umbrella design on the wall was pretty simple, a basic umbrella shape. But the one players had to carve out from the honeycomb was much more complex, with extra angles that made it harder to cut out. Now in Season 2, when Gi-hun dreams about another round of Dalona, notice in his dream, the umbrella on the wall matches the exact design he had to carve out in Season 1. But in reality, the wall back then only had a basic umbrella design. This inconsistency wasn't a mistake, it was deliberate. It highlights that Gi-hun is dreaming, and his mind is reshaping the memory based on his own experience. It's also a clever visual clue for fans to realize that what they're seeing isn't real and Gi-hun is in fact dreaming. The recruiter offers homeless people a choice: take some bread or try their luck with a lottery ticket. But the show never really explains why he does this or who told him to. Well, I think I figured out the reason. He's doing it because he feels guilty. As his job is to recruit innocent people for a deadly game where most of them die. When they pick the ticket over the bread, it kinda annoys him, like he's surprised people would rather gamble when they're starving. But honestly, that's the point of the whole show. People often chase the slim chance of a big win instead of just taking the safe option. The recruiter's choice to do this little game is him justifying why he's part of the Squid Game. He thinks people would rather risk it all for money than just take what they need. He's not completely wrong, but he's not fully right either. It's like a mini version of the bigger theme of the show, people betting on a lucky break instead of playing it safe. Sure, it's just a scratch card, but it's the same idea. He's trying to convince himself that what he's doing is fine. And if we think about the players, they're not really making a bad choice either. Skipping one meal for the chance to win big? That makes sense, even for rich people. You can skip one meal, but if you win millions, you're set for life. So, at the end of the day, the recruiter's just telling himself his actions aren't so bad. And if you think deeply, that's what the frontman believes too. In Season 3, though, I think people like him and the recruiter will lose. Because someone will always come to pick you up when you're down, whether the bad guys are alive to see it or not. When push comes to shove, humanity rises. And with that, please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, grab the subscribe button and turn notifications on. I'm your Cine Orbit and I'll see you lads in the next one.